Thank you all again for joining us. I'm Tina Barnes-Caraher. I'm one of the co-founders of the Daisy Foundation. And right now I serve in the role of Vice President of Events and Public Relations. And myself, along with Lauren Harrison, who is your Regional Program Manager for Florida and Georgia, will be hosting today's event. And really today is all about learning and sharing and networking about your Daisy Award program. Okay, the chat. Please feel free to chat with each other or to put a question in the chat. We will be monitoring that and answering any questions that you have in there. Mute, other than me, which apparently I just did. Please stay muted during the presentations and unmuted during our breakout sessions. And the camera. So we are recording now. We will be recording in this main room. You can choose to turn off your camera if you want, but when we go to the breakout rooms, we will not be recording in there, and please feel free to turn your camera on there. And with that, I will go into today's agenda. So I'm going to kick us off with some latest announcements and news, and then we are going to go into our partner presentations. We have 3 wonderful presentations for you today from Advent Hill Children's Hospital, from Piedmont Healthcare in Columbus, Georgia, and from Mount Sinai, which is in the Miami area. After those presentations, we'll have a question and answer portion of our program, and then we'll go into our breakout room discussions. And these are the topics for our 4 breakout rooms. I will put those back up a little bit later, but just be thinking about which room you want to join. And do know that we'll have note takers in each room. So if there's 2 that you really want to join, pick one, and just know that we'll have recaps at the end of what was discussed, and we will be sharing notes of what was discussed in those rooms. After our time together in the breakout room, we'll come back to this main room, hear the recaps, quick recaps from each room, and then we'll do a summary and a closing. So let's get started. And you guys can all hear me, right? Still? Okay, great. All right. So some news and announcements. I want to make sure that everyone is aware of our new Daisy Coordinator calendar. We kicked off an initiative in January that's all about the Daisy Coordinator. You should be getting monthly newsletters from us that contain a monthly theme, a focus, tips, tools, resources, and a mini challenge. For Daisy Coordinators that complete all 12 mini challenges, you will get a special gift and a note of gratitude from Mark and Bonnie Barnes at the end of this year. It's not too late to join. If you haven't been doing this, you can always go back and look at the January, February, March, and April challenges. If you're not receiving this, please reach out to us so that we can make sure that you're getting this communication. Lots of great toolkits and best practices that are available to you as the Daisy Coordinator for your Daisy program. Just wanted to also make sure that you all know we have all new marketing materials in our resource center. So if it's been a while since you've reprinted or updated your materials, know that these templates and tools are available to you in our resource center. I think they look great. We have some new options too. The business cards have been a really big hit with a lot of our partners. Many managers will use them when rounding, and some other banners and nomination forms, clings, posters, flyers, things like that. So if you're looking to refresh, please check out our resource center for that. We also have Daisy merchandise. So many times we do get asked from partners, we want to give something special to this nominee that's been nominated multiple times. We have an honoree who's received the award 3 times, or we just want to do something special during Nurses Week. We partnered with a nurse-owned company called Adney. They provide t-shirts, sweatshirts, socks, tote bags, cups, a bunch of Daisy things. And then we also have our Daisy book, both in print and the audio book. So if that's of interest, please check that out as well. The nominee pins. I always just like when we have a captive audience to talk about the importance of recognizing your nominees. Being nominated is recognition in of itself, and making sure that that nominee gets that feedback, gets a copy of their nomination, is acknowledged, gets their nominee pin, and a congratulations note from their manager or chief nursing officer means the world to them. My favorite quote, which is on here, was from a nominee who said, "My patient chose me." So making sure that you have a nominee process in place, and that the nominees are getting their pins, they're getting a copy of their nominations, and they're getting that recognition and congratulations. And finally, close the loop. So this is something that has come to our attention, I'd say, within the past year. Thinking about and putting a process in place to let the nominator know that their nomination has been received. We do get a lot of emails and phone calls saying, "I nominated my nurse, I don't know what happened. Did they get it? Did the committee get it? Did my nurse get my feedback?" And so letting them know that, yes, it's been received, and these are the next steps in the process. Now, I know that many DAISY coordinators and committees might be stretched. So if you need help managing this portion of it, consider expanding your committee or even asking retired nurses or members of your committee to volunteer to help close that loop and to let nominators know that, yes, their nomination has been received and what those next steps are. And for some of the topics that I just talked about and much more, I'll just pause here for just a few seconds. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to a landing page on our website that has this information plus more information that you can refer back to. So I'll just give you a few seconds if anyone wants to scan that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Lauren Harrison, who is your regional manager for Georgia and Florida. And we are going to jump into today's featured partner presentations. And remember, any questions, comments, please add them to the chat. We'll be monitoring it throughout our time together today. Thank you. Lauren.
Thank you, Tina, and welcome everyone. I'm Lauren Hairston, Program Manager here at DAISY for Georgia and Florida. Today we will have 3 presentations from our partners in this region where they will showcase their DAISY Award program, processes, and best practices. To get us started with the first presentation, we have Sarah Masiolek from Advent Health Children in Orlando, Florida. So Sarah, whenever you're ready, please get started.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to talk about our DAISY program. My name is Sarah. I serve as the Director of Professional Development and Clinical Excellence at Advent Health for Children. In this role, I'm the Magnet Program Director, and I have the distinct honor and privilege to serve as our DAISY Program Coordinator since 2022. A little bit about Advent Health for Children. We are located in Orlando, Florida. We're proud to be home to more than 800 nurses delivering care across 275 pediatric or neonatal beds. Our organization has been recognized by the Leapfrog Group as a top children's hospital in 2022, 2024, and 2025. We've also achieved 3 consecutive ANCC Magnet designations, and we're waiting to hear any day about our 4th designation. And finally, we're proud to be PTAP accredited for our new grad residency program. All of these create a culture for programs like DAISY to thrive. Here's a snapshot of what our DAISY program looks like. At Advent Health for Children, we've grown that program over the last 5 years. We've been a proud DAISY partner since 2012, and each month we recognize 1 nurse as a DAISY honoree. Today, we receive an average of about 90 nominations every month, and this represents an 8-fold increase in nominations over the past 5 years. While there are several factors that resulted in this program growth, one key element was improving program visibility to our patients and families. In July of 2023, we introduced DAISY signage in every patient room with a QR code, making it easier for patients and families to recognize the care. We also equipped our leadership team by encouraging DAISY nominations during leader rounding. We did this by building that practice directly into the leader rounding playbook and the education that leaders receive about rounding. As our program continued to evolve, so has our recognition. We added in 2024 an annual DAISY Nurse Leader Award, an annual DAISY Nurse Educator Award. This has allowed us to celebrate excellence not only for our clinical nurses at the bedside, but also in these leadership and professional development roles. In addition to DAISY, we launched our B program in 2023. B stands for Being Excellent Every Day. The program was specifically created to recognize non-nurses for their compassionate care, and these roles are absolutely essential to the care experience. The program ensures that their contributions don't go unnoticed. Each quarter, we honor a B. We celebrate them by a personalized trophy that you can see on the screen, also a certificate and a B pin. And since launching our program, we've received over 300 nominations, and we've recognized 10 exceptional honorees so far, all from different disciplines. One of my favorite ways to describe this program is this: a daisy can't survive without a bee, and a bee can't survive without a daisy. Together, these programs reinforce a culture of recognition. In order to support our growing program, we had to be very intentional about how we were receiving and managing our nominations. Traditionally, we were collecting our nominations using a trifold cardstock paper form and also an online submission using Microsoft Forms. As you know, the paper forms are costly. They're often difficult to read due to handwriting, and it can be very time-consuming to manage and collect, especially across a large campus. We have 19 collection bins across our entire campus, and it takes about 2 hours to round on every single box, restocking and distributing new pamphlets. Here are a few of the key changes that we made to help make this process easier. In 2022, we transitioned from using Microsoft Forms to using a program called FormStack for our online nominations. This allowed us to generate an automated monthly report that is in Excel, and that significantly reduced the manual workload of managing our nominations. To further reduce the reliance on paper, we took the QR code from that online nomination and created the patient signage that you see on the screen here. This was placed in every patient room in our organization in July of 2023. This made it easier for the patients, families, and team members to submit these nominations in real time right at the point of care. We then partnered with our shared governance members for their help in the distribution, restocking, and collecting those completed paper forms. As I said, that was a very time-consuming process. These shifts helped us to streamline the process and supported the growth of our program. As you probably know, managing nominations without question is the most time-consuming part of the DAISY process. It's also the most important part. Because we're a shared campus with our adult counterparts at Advent Health Orlando, all our nominations, especially the online nominations, must first be manually sorted. So I run the report for not only our organization, but for the Orlando organization, because often it's pediatric care that was delivered and the nominator inadvertently put Orlando.
You know, that's my driver. Allison Lombeck calling me.
I got it in.
We will be.
And then in addition to that, we have to identify the nurses, which is our next major hurdle. This responsibility is led out by our coordinating council chair of shared governance, who is a clinical nurse. They serve a 2-year term. So I'm only training someone every 2 years. And because they're clinical nurses, they're very familiar with the clinical documentation, with their peers on their unit and in other units. On average, this work takes about 4 hours each month just to identify the right nurse. And some of the challenges that we face to make this identification include, one, our last names or initials are not on our ID badges, making it difficult. The families and patients don't know the last name of the nurse. We often use nicknames that aren't a clear match to the name that's provided for that nurse in the hospital directory. They may go by a middle name or a nickname that's not easily identifiable. And then our nominators often provide limited or incomplete patient information. It's difficult to trace that nomination back to a specific encounter and then validate the nurse. To help bridge these gaps, we use many different strategies. The first being we take the phone number from the nominator, which is almost always included in the nomination, which is good. We use that to search for the patient encounter and find it in Epic. And then we view the treatment team. And a lot of times that's all that's needed in order to identify the nurse, the right nurse. If we still can't identify the nurse, we reach out to the nominator, and we'll also use the nurse manager over that area for their support and assistance. And then importantly, we never delete any unidentified nominations. So if we have a nomination that was never able to be tied to a specific nurse, maybe we weren't sure which nurse, we never heard back, we weren't able to identify it, that remains in our tracking system, and we mark it as such so that we can go back and look at these if we are requested by a nurse to view or find a nomination they never received. The next part of our process is the blinding and voting process. Because we experienced such a huge growth in our program, we realized that we could not any longer view every single DAISY nomination. So we developed a scoring rubric that's directly based on our Advent Health Service standards, and that's shown on the screen here. This ensures that every nomination is evaluated consistently and objectively. Once they're scored, we take the top 20 to 25 highest scoring nominations. Those are then fully blinded, and then those are reviewed and voted on by all of our members of shared governance. They do this on the day of their shared governance meeting. So as you can see in the slide here, we have a picture of what their name tent looks like, and we have QR codes for DAISY voting and for B voting. So they can scan the QR code on that day. They take time in their meeting, so they have protected time to do the voting. And they read through the nominations and place their vote. Having the bedside nurses be involved in this step helps to strengthen the transparency and the shared ownership that's in the process for our DAISY program. And then this approach ensures that every DAISY honoree is selected through a process that's both objective and values driven. The next step in DAISY is our celebration. Nothing unique or special here. We conduct it during shift huddle for the honorees unit or department. That allows their peers to hear the recognition. During the celebration, I'm usually the one that shares the story and background of the DAISY program. And then the nurse manager reads the blinded nomination and reveals the honoree. And then we include all levels of nursing leader. They have a role in the celebration. Maybe they present the DAISY statue, and we take individual photos and group photos. I know Tina mentioned the importance of recognizing nominees. I really think by how we've grown into placing more emphasis on those that are nominated is helped grow our program over the years. So we knew we needed to simplify and standardize the process because we were handing out pins to all of our nominees. But once we started to hit over 100 nominations, we needed a more standardized process to do that. So we created a template and we merge information from Excel for each nomination. That allows us to efficiently generate individualized recognition letters for each nominee. You'll see a letter on the screen. These letters are then sent to the print shop where they're printed on cardstock that are perfectly trimmed to fit into a clear cellophane bag, and it has a sealed top. So often our DAISY nominees may receive more than one pin a month. And so we place all of the letters for that month and all of the pins that they earned that month in that sealed bag. And then this allows us to easily sort all of the honorees or nominees by units and then provide that to their unit manager for unit recognition. To support the work, because it can take about an hour or more to assemble these each month, we utilize interns, volunteers, and our executive assistants to assist with that. We use a standardized template to announce both the honoree and all the nominees from the month using our internal communication forums. And then we recognize our DAISY honorees during our annual Clinical Excellence Awards. And finally, nurses can receive clinical ladder points for both being nominated and also being an honoree for the DAISY Award. The last concept I wanted to talk to all of you about is one that's most important and a top priority for our program, and that's maintaining your program integrity. My recommendation is to maintain a single point of contact for the DAISY program, especially internally, so that the nurses within your organization can identify someone that can help them address issues. So you may have many helping hands in the background, which I do as well, but having that point of contact has helped to develop trust with the bedside nurses. And the most common issues that they raise would be missing or lost nominations, which I always try to maintain direct communication with that nurse when we're attempting to find a missing nomination. And then broken or lost daisy pins, which we easily will replace for them. To further build trust, we prioritize having program transparency with our shared governance voting members. So I regularly share the statistics, trends, and overall program steps with our shared governance members. They serve as our voting body, but they also provide oversight to the program. So we don't make changes to our DAISY program without presenting it to our shared governance and requesting a vote. So for example, the adoption of the scoring rubric is 100% based on and approved by our members of shared governance. This helps to strengthen their ownership for the program and their pride in the DAISY program. And I did want to share that despite these strong processes, we did have one issue in the last 5 years where we did incorrectly identify a nurse and they were awarded a DAISY. I felt it was, not something that we ever wanted to see happen, and we take a lot of measures to prevent this from happening. It's any coordinator's worst nightmare. But I felt like by sharing this, I could hopefully help if another team is facing this, how to navigate through that difficult situation. So first, how did this happen? The nomination was written by the father of a patient that was treated in our PEDS emergency department. The nominator had typed one name all through the body of the nomination, but then in the field where they typed the name of the nurse they're nominating, they typed another first name. And both of the first names started with the letter A. The patient encounter was easy to find. The name that was in the body of the nomination letter was easily found on the treatment team. And so that was the nurse that was honored. Following the award celebration, that nurse began to realize, based on wording in the nomination, that she wasn't quite sure if she was actually the nurse that this nomination was written for. So she had looked back into the charting and she found that she felt it was really written for another nurse whose name also started with the letter A that was on her unit. So she came to her nurse manager and voluntarily gave back the award so her peer could be honored. Understandably, she was quite embarrassed. So I worked with the nurse manager, director, our CNO, myself. We all at different intervals made it a point to speak with this nurse. For me especially, I wanted to explain to her exactly how this occurred so that she could understand the process behind it and understand that there was no malicious intent in how this error had happened. It also afforded us the opportunity to extend our apologies. Following the lead of the nurse manager, we held off on several weeks before we honored the correct nurse. And we did so in a private celebration that was at her request. So in the end, having transparency and communication was the key to resolving this unfortunate issue. So those were the key highlights of our program, the growth that we've experienced, challenges that we've faced. Here's my contact information. I would love to connect with anyone who is struggling with parts of their program and thinks there may be some value in having that connection.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your wonderful presentation and for the time, the effort, and the intention that you're putting into your DAISY Award program to make it special for your nurses. I would now like to introduce longtime DAISY coordinator, Ms. Daphne Register from Piedmont Columbus and from Piedmont Healthcare in Columbus, Georgia.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'll share my screen. Can everyone see my presentation okay? Yes? No?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Got to do the visual and sound check at the beginning of this. But thank you, Tina, for having me. Love to do this. My name is Daphne Register, and I am the DAISY coordinator of Piedmont Columbus Regional Midtown Campus. I am actually one of 22 facility in the Piedmont healthcare system. And my goal today is to share some lessons learned, challenges, and innovative ideas on how we can sustain a successful DAISY program. So, okay, just a little bit about me. My first involvement with the DAISY program was not as a member of the committee. So during the pandemic, 2020, I think many of us have discovered and found our resilience activity. And my resilience activity that I discovered was paper crafting. So I learned to make paper flowers. Looking at the learning curve, the more you do, the better you get at it, right? So during the pandemic, real flowers were not admitted in the hospital. We didn't have, we had those guidelines to follow. So I approached the DAISY coordinator at that time and asked her if she would allow me to make paper daisy flowers to the honorees that were given to them in a paper vase because they couldn't get the bouquet. So she agreed, and I found a great opportunity to practice my craft. So, not a Daisy committee member, I just wanted to make flowers. However, in May of 2022, our CNO was looking for a new coordinator, and I jumped on the opportunity. So, not knowing what was in store for me, um, I stepped up to the plate. In the beginning, one of the first things that I did was explore the information on the DAISY website. Since this was a relaunch, one of the things that I knew I had to focus on was marketing. So, one of the things that helped me is contacting our senior communications specialist, marketing coordinator, brand builder, and looking at the resources that we currently use. So, on our intranet, we do have a place on our intranet where anyone, employee, family member, can use the organization's internet and enter nominations for DAISY. So any nominations that go into the intranet are received by myself in an email that says DAISY nomination. So not just me, but also the parties who are part of the DAISY committee in our campus in Columbus receive the nominations. One of the other ways that we also do is sharing the DAISY stories and photos on the organization's intranet every time we have an honoree to honor. This is a picture of what it looks like on our intranet, and just clicking on the icon here, submit a DAISY Award nomination. It populates the nominator, the phone number, email, who they're nominating, the unit. What I love specifically about this, when they put their email in, this is one avenue for me to send back an email to the nominator and let them know, thank you for nominating so-and-so for the Daisy Award, and this is just so they know that their nomination was received or something happened to it. Because if I was a nominator, I'd like to know what happened to my nomination, and they will indicate there as well if they want to be contacted. And having their email also helps me let them know that the nurse whom they nominated is receiving a Daisy Award, whether it's a honoree, educator, and all the other different Daisy Awards. So that's one thing, big use of the internet. Our organization also has connections on Facebook. They also post there, LinkedIn, in our current environment of digital and virtual communication. This is a great avenue for marketing. Posters, flyers, QR codes. Because we are a crafty thing, we did use QR codes, but we are cautioned by our marketing department with the use of QR codes, the potential for phishing and spam. When people scan the code, there may be some black marks that are changed, and it may lead to a link that can, what do you call this? I'm at a loss for words. Yeah, it can mess up. I can't find the words. The integrity of our patient healthcare information. So we do have a lot of internet and firewalls, and a lot of that information we don't want to go through Piedmont. Here's an example of our trifold that's also mailed out, and I also receive it in the email, in my mail, in the mailbox. So that's another way for marketing. Other ways for marketing, we do have the banner, display the Daisy Award, who has received them. Over here, you will see this was at the beginning. It's actually a keychain, and it says, "Ask me about Daisy," but on the back of the chain, it's very light, and some nurses wear them on their ID badge. They can scan the QR code, and it leads directly to the internet. So a lot of that is being changed due to our policy for QR codes. So just FYI, make sure you consult with your IS regarding QR code policies. Many of these nominations are also put in patients' discharge folders so that they'll have them when they get home, and they have the opportunity to send them and mail them, and I'll get them that way. One of the things that I also started with is committee members. So in order to sustain the program, we want to make sure that service lines are represented in the committee members, and not just nursing, but non-nursing, like patient experience. They're involved in it, and that Daisy is also part of the patient experience. Same like Sarah, there are opportunities for clinical nurse ladder, advancement program, communication, meetings, emails, group me with everybody. A lot of different units have communications among themselves. With nominations, apart from receiving them from our intranet, we have boxes in all patient areas, including procedural areas. The first time I received a a nomination that was from a procedural area like PACU. I was really excited because that's one of the areas that seem to be missed sometimes. So I was really happy about that, like cath lab and ultrasound, and we want to make sure that those nurses over there are recognized as well. Usually we receive more than 50 nominations in each area. One of our record nominations, we had like up to 187. And I appreciate the work that you put in there as well, Sarah, with sifting through those nominations. So in our facility, instead of monthly, we actually do quarterly awards. 3 honorees, one for each of the month in the quarter, and 1 nurse leader, which is actually a annual award. One of the things that I know and have been practicing to do is how to sustain the program. One of the things that we do is shared leadership. When I am not available, my co-coordinator is able to step in. Sometimes nurses move to other organizations or move to a different area, or things happen and they can no longer sustain the role and responsibility that they have as a committee. So what I do with that is when someone comes in and they're new to the committee, I pair them up with somebody who's been in the committee for a while, let's say doing a task. And there's lots of tasks in the DAISY committee that not just one person can complete. Collecting nominations from the boxes and refilling them. Ordering cinnamon rolls, collecting banners, collecting nominations, sifting through nominations, making sure that the nurse is the nurse indicated for the nomination, or calling managers. Who is this person, or are they still working here where they are? And then we follow through where they're going through the organization. So there's always plenty of tasks to share, and we use the body system for that. Another thing is also task rotation. So if this quarter I'm collecting nominations, the next quarter I'm ordering cinnamon rolls. And this helps each committee member be familiar with the process and what goes on through the event of putting together a DAISY Award. It can be as little as preparing the award bags so that we are ready to present them, things like that. And don't forget to include patient experience as part of your committee members. We are also fortunate to have a volunteer department here, and especially during the summer, I connect with our director of volunteers, and they help. They provide assistance, especially for next week. Nurses Week is coming. It's a big deal for all of the nurses. They help with logistics, refilling nomination boxes. For next week, they'll be helping in decorations, setting up the tables, preparing where the food is. So lots of opportunities for them to get involved in the DAISY program. For tracking nominations, this is what it looks like on my email when I get it. So it's DAISY Award nomination, and it's counted. I like to look at that number. It means how many we've received. So that's a lot since I onboarded on May 2022. But I do create a rule in a separate folder in my email so that I can file that email in that specific quarter that I'm collecting. And it makes it easy for me to look at the nomination and filter through the information that I need. When I read the paper nominations and get them, that takes a little bit more digging compared to the emails. But because of the emails, it lightens the paper load a little bit more than usual. So celebrating, we are all about celebrating. We certainly use the blind voting using the rubric, and our rubric is individualized to reflect our Piedmont values, promise, and nominations are typed blind, excluding the nurses' names. And we do the same thing. We tally the top 10, we use top 10, and the story that gets the most number of votes, then we do an elimination process. So before celebration, we want to make sure that we coordinate the schedule with the managers when we present in the unit. Make sure they're working, have not switched a shift with another nurse or not on PTO. Things like that can happen. So we send out invitations to the leaders, DAISY committee, staff, their unit-based educators. We order cinnamon rolls for the units, prepare the DAISY bags. All the nominations as well are distributed to each of the different managers to give to their units in each department, so that they will know that someone thought of you today, and whatever you do on a daily basis does not go unnoticed. I also put together a cart pre-me. A lot of the DAISY materials were not on a cart, and having a cart, just as I've seen in other photos as well, helps carry what we need to carry, the bags, the portfolio, and information that we need. So this week, next week, will be our Nurses Week, and it is actually our 3rd annual DAISY celebration. I want to thank Tina for coming down last year to help us celebrate the nurses. And to celebrate, we do have a Lifetime Achievement Award. We had some refreshments, opportunities for photos with everybody, and it's just a nice, simple gathering, and it's on a Friday to help culminate Nurses Week in appreciation for all the extraordinary things that they do. So that is my presentation and my information. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much.
Daphne, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful presentation. I especially love your succession and sustainability plan. I think that's an amazing best practice that you have in place so that we don't lose contact with you all when there's an internal change, and we're able to just keep the program going strong and connect with you all further. So thank you so much for sharing today. And before we move into our Q&A and breakout session, we will have our final presentation from Kylie Rollins Perez from Mount Sinai Hospital in Miami, Florida.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to the DAISY Foundation for allowing Mount Sinai Medical Center to be able to talk about our successes here at Mount Sinai. Our DAISY committee consists of about 10 people, and I am one of the co-coordinators of our DAISY committee. Keisha is on the call, and she's our other coordinator. So thank you. So just a little bit about Mount Sinai Medical Center. We're located on Miami Beach, our main campus. We actually have 14 facilities spread across Dade County as well as in the Keys. We have 3 freestanding emergency centers. We have a new location that opens actually at the end of the, we have a cancer center opening up in May. We have facilities extending beyond Dade County into Monroe County. We are licensed for 664 beds on our main campus, and we have over 1,000 RNs and approximately about 4,000 employees that work at Mount Sinai. So our nominations, we really encourage nominations from patients, relatives, co-workers, physicians, students. We have nomination forms and DAISY boxes as well on each of the units. We have gone away from the cardboard trifolds because they are difficult to manage, just like you heard in one of the other presentations. We do use QR codes on the cards, little business cards, on posters that are on each of the units. We have banners at the entrances. We also have on our screensaver, we have the nomination along with the QR code. And we also have a link on the patient's MyChart to be able to nominate anybody for the nurses for a DAISY. Our selection over time, how we do our selection has really changed. We used to do in person, and then we went to try and save some time. We thought we would do email, scan the nominations in and do emails and then sort them out by unit and do the cards and the pins. But it became very overwhelming for 1 to 2 people just to manage at a time. So we've gone back to meeting in person, and we do a lunch meeting where we go through all of the nominations. We sort them by department. We add cards and a pin to every nomination selection. It goes back to the unit. While we're going through them, each of the committee members is assigned a certain couple of units, and then they pick out finalists, and then we read out the finalists at the end of our meeting, and we select our finalists. Then we get probably about 200 or more nominations a month. So we have really grown. Our program has grown. We started in 2023. We have a multidisciplinary committee. We have somebody from IT. We have somebody from our human resources department and nursing department. So we have a plethora of different people from throughout the hospital, part of our committee. We've actually added other awards during our time. We've added the Sunflower Award, which is a nomination for any support staff of nursing. That could be a patient care tech, that could be a EVS worker, it could be somebody in our IT department. And then we've slowly then added the Leadership Award and Educator Award, and we do those twice a year for each of those. And coming soon, actually, we will have our first presentation for our outpatient departments. We are getting lots of nominations for our Aventura, our places in Coral Gables and the Keys. And so we've decided that we would also recognize those people. So we have our first outpatient award ceremony next week. And if they don't fit into any of those categories, we take the time to email them and CC their boss and send them a little congratulations and a copy of their nomination so that they know that they were recognized. Our foundation For our electronic nominations, our foundation gets a copy of those nominations, and thank you emails are sent out by the foundation to those people for nominating the nurses. We're unable to do that with our paper awards just because the volume of nominations that we get. We do have strong engagement from our committee, and we have a good support from our leadership and our executive leadership. So we're very, very thankful for that. We really try and select people who meet what we call our Mount Sinai way and really demonstrate values that align with our core values, behaviors that align with our core values. And we kind of make sure that, those people, our human resources person, make sure that, our winners meet some of those standards because they have that access to those resources. So what makes our DAISY program successful? I think we have visible leadership support. A lot of our leadership come to our presentations. We are timely about our recognition. We start reviewing the month prior, the first week of the month, and by the end of that first week, we have picked the previous month's winner, and we have those celebrations by the end of that month, so that they're recognized real time. Our celebrations, we meet on that person's home unit at a time that's really, really convenient for them, not that's convenient for the DAISY committee. So we really want to make sure that the staff are engaged, because that's what creates new nominations. We really tell storytelling. It really highlights an impact on that patient care. So we want to make sure that the staff are hearing and listening what kind of values we want them to mimic from the winners. So this is how we celebrate deliver our celebrations. It again, as I said, it takes place on the home unit at a time that's convenient for the honoree and the unit. It's usually at their huddles, so we often do them at very early in the morning, at 7 o'clock in the morning. Our committee membership is kind of large enough to provide coverage and mutual support. So we recognize that not all our committee members can get there. So we're very flexible in being able to adapt to do everybody's role. So, if I'm reading the nominations next week, it's maybe Keisha reading the nomination or somebody else on the committee. So we share those responsibilities so that we each learn each other's roles so that we can fill in at any given time. We allow flexibility to attend on the employee schedule. I just already mentioned that. And our administrative team are invited to attend. And just the volume of who attends is really dependent on their availability. And we just want to make sure that the recognition we give is meaningful and respectful, but also we keep it brief. We don't want to take up the staff's too much time, because the entire staff is there during that presentation, and we know that patient care is important. I think that the biggest thing during our DAISY moments, our CNO always leads the presentation by just telling the why and the how. So the importance and significance of the DAISY Award, the history of it, really highlights that it's an international recognition, so that staff really see the significance and the impact of what they've done. And she then goes over who can nominate, just to reinforce that, you know, anybody can make those nominations. And we always see an increase in that department's volume of nominations after we've done a recognition on that particular unit. And that tends to continue throughout time. So our Daisy moments, we're looking for somebody who goes above and beyond. We look for vulnerable moments. We look for somebody who advocates for patients or family members, is a team person, and collaborates with compassion with their team, that they're a role model to their peers, and they display consistent and positive caring demeanor in all situations. So we want to make sure that they meet those values. Oh, did I skip? Nope, I did not, sorry. So beyond just the script, we have a wall of fame, which is outside a very popular cafe, where everybody gets their cafecito in the morning in Miami. And we do flowers. We do daisy flowers for the daisy winner, and we try and do sunflower flowers for the sunflower winner, again, depending on what season we're in and their availability. We also give our winners a prime parking spot, which seems to be the most exciting thing that they sometimes win. Everybody fights for that parking spot because we're at a large facility and parking is difficult. We also post them beyond the Daisy website on various social media outlets that we have at Mount Sinai. We include them in our newsletter. Our foundation has just started. I talked about the foundation sending thank you letters. We've just started where our board has started to recognize the Daisy and Sunflower award winners. And at our last board meeting, the recipients from the previous quarter were invited to the board meeting to be honored by the board. They also provide them with a plaque and certificate to say thank you from them. And of course, each unit celebrates differently. The department director might decorate the room and provide extra goodies for the staff to celebrate beyond that. So we allow them to do that. And that was it in a nutshell. Thank you so much for allowing me the time to share.
Thank you so much, Kylie, for sharing and taking the time to present to us. And I just want to thank each of our presenters for coming out today and presenting all of that wonderful information and for everything that you're doing for your Daisy Award program. It was great hearing about all the creative and innovative ways that you're implementing Daisy at your organization. So thank you all. I am going to turn it back over to Tino, and she's going to lead our Q&A session and our breakout room session. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are going to go through and do a quick recaps of what was discussed in each room. So first up, we have room 1, first year programs with London and Nicole. I think, Nicole, you're going to give us the recap? Okay.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Reporting from the Shire. I'm Nicole. I'm the program manager for the West Coast region, but it's really nice to be here to help out. We had first year programs. I'm going to try and see if I can read my notes. I was scribbling quite a bit. I think the main common theme that we had was collecting those nominations that were substantial and had enough in there that a little bit more than just my nurse was nice. We know that you will get to see a lot of those, and those are still nominations you would want to recognize, but they might not hit that criteria for making it through for your selection committee. So we just talked about some suggestions of using sample nominations to help market your program, as well as if you do have an honoree or if you presented your first award, using that honoree story to then market your program even more and really showcase not only keeping that celebration going, but also inspiring those real stories that you're getting at your facility within that first year. So kind of a full circle event there. And then also, if the nominator does have an email, we talked about even maybe possibly reaching out to them and just asking, hey, do you have any more information about this nomination story that you would like to add, to see if maybe you can pull some more for that story there. London had discussed maybe even a weekly newsletter or a monthly newsletter to again kind of draw those nominations. Let's see here. We also talked about, we know that those handwritten nominations can be hard to read. So asking for volunteers to possibly help you with reading those out, or even using talk to text or dictate to help you input those nominations. We know that that is a very time consuming part of your DAISY program. So utilizing that technology to really help with your DAISY program can be beneficial. We talked about just having not only with that resource center, but utilizing us at DAISY. I know one of our members in group 1 talked about how helpful Lauren has been. Shout out to Lauren, but we all at DAISY are here to help with you guys. I like to tell my California or West Coast team, even if you call me weekly, I'm here to support you. So feel free to reach out to your DAISY team with any questions or any help that you need. And that's a quick recap. I hope I hit everything, but thank you everybody in Team 1, the Shire.
Thank you, Nicole and London. Okay, room 2, ambulatory and specialty. We had Alex and I believe Rebecca.
Yes, so we had a small group in our breakout room today. There were 4 participants as well as myself and Rebecca. The conversation really worked around ambulatory areas, specialty areas, surgery, the emergency department, outpatient offices, and how to make sure that nurses working in those spaces where the interactions might be more brief, might not be as long-standing, or and things like that, how we can still get strong nomination stories for the nurses working in those spaces. Some of the best practices that we discussed was utilizing QR codes in patient rooms, in waiting areas. The table tent is a great one alongside the patient room sign where the QR code is readily available for an electronic option. We also talked about having, say, business cards at point of check-in when making visits or kind of paying co-pays, that last point before an outpatient visit might be concluding. We also talked a lot about utilizing after visit summaries and MyCharts or any other electronic databases that patients are accessing to have DAISY readily available there as well. Kylie shared that they use Epic, their MyChart through Epic, and they were able to work with their team to add the link quite simply into that form, and just that quick add, it really increased the nomination stories that we received in their outpatient areas. So that was a great best practice. We also talked about in some of the outpatient areas where nominations might not be as detailed in the sense of narrative, but people are being recognized often, grouping those nomination stories together for the nurses so that it shows that while they might be shorter in the sense of the length of the nomination, that this nurse has still not been nominated 4 times or 5. And then lastly, we talked about putting together review cycles, our annual award cycles, where a certain award might be dedicated at different periods of time to the ambulatory areas, just to ensure that they have a similar opportunity of recognition as the inpatient areas.
All good ideas. Thank you, Alex. Okay, room 3, expanding your DAISY program, Jennifer and Chelsea.
Yes, we talked about a couple of different things. We also talked about including your ambulatory and how to kind of make them feel recognized as well and fold them into your DAISY program. Likewise, we talked about other award offerings, things like the Team Award, which is a great way to recognize a team led by a nurse, really kind of being intentional about that team and recognizing those who were really instrumental in that nomination story. And also looking at the Nurse Leader Award as a way to recognize your nurse managers, directors, even chief nursing officers, those nurses who are really maybe not at the bedside, but they're creating that environment of compassionate care. And so really being able to give them that specific recognition with our Nurse Leader Award. And then as we're going into Nurses Week, of course, the Lifetime Achievement Award is always a really popular offering as well. So for anyone who would like to really recognize that nurse's career of compassionate care, it's kind of become synonymous with the retirement award, but it doesn't have to be. It really just meant as a way to recognize those longstanding nurses and really commemorating their career. And so those are some great award offerings that you can use to layer onto your existing DAISY program and really kind of make it a robust, meaningful program for nurses, no matter where they are in your facility.
Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah, we're really at DAISY trying to have recognition for nurses no matter where they practice, in whatever role they serve and throughout their career. Okay, last but certainly not least, room 4, boosting nominations and program awareness. We had Kara and Alicia, I'm sorry. And also just so you know, in the chat, Laura did put a link to the Resource Center for some awareness ideas, and I will let you guys recap your conversation.
Hi, everyone. So we had a great conversation. One of the first questions that came up was trying to make sure that all nurses can get nominated, specifically nurses who are involved in procedures, operating room, surgery. So some of the techniques that we recommend for those areas are peer-to-peer and leadership nominations. Your nurses, not your nurses, but your patients are usually unconscious. And so it's a great way for nurses to nominate each other if they see a nurse going above and beyond, or leadership. Also, we recommend having those nurses' names in the discharge paperwork. So the family of the patient or the patient can write in a thank you. Also involving registration, or Daphne made a good point about getting like techs involved, physical therapists, so they can nominate as well. Other questions that we had were creating a scoring rubric to make sure that it meets really the needs of your organization. So while DAISY does provide you with a scoring rubric example, you do not have to use that whole example. Please make sure that your scoring rubric meets your organization's values and what you want it to be for your program. And then kind of how to manage written nominations. So something that we've recommended for a long time is if you have written nominations, you can always make copies of those nominations and take some whiteout or a black Sharpie to remove those names. But also, the Word document does have a Dictate app that you can use. And I believe this is in our Resource Center, and it might be on our YouTube, but we do have a video that will walk you through how to use that if you're unfamiliar on how to use the Dictate for Word. But it's a lot quicker to read those nominations and have Word dictate it for you if you were looking to do that. And then I think the last thing we talked about were one-liner nominations and how to get more substantial nominations. So Alicia pointed out making sure that you have good verbiage, like thanking your nurse instead of just saying nominate your nurse. A lot of people think when you say nominate, you just need to say that the nurse was great or that you want to nominate that nurse. But saying thank you, people will relate that more to writing out a thank you card and showing their appreciation. We also recommend having detailed stories about your honorees, either on your nominations, whether that's written or online, but also maybe around your organization so that patients and families can see the kind of stories that you're looking for and know to share more information. And I think that's everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for your time and for participating today. We did record this, so we'll send you the recording and we will have a follow-up thank you note with a quick survey, a few questions, and feel free to respond to that, not only with the survey questions, but with any feedback or any questions that maybe you didn't get to ask today. And we are happy to reach back out to give you that information. As Nicole said, we're all here to support you, and we just can't thank you enough for your partnership and for using the DAISY Award to recognize and celebrate your nurses. Have a wonderful Nurses Week. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.